Nathan,
Mm.
what kind of stuff is exciting you? What kind of companies are you looking at right now that you're thinking are doing interesting things?
Yeah, yeah. I think this builds a little bit on what Tim was saying. Like, I think the landscape is changing so quickly that, for all the kind of categories that we articulated, some of those categories will still be kind of dominated by each company rolling their own, because it's sort of easy. It's either easy or it's better to like roll your own custom thing for whatever your workflows are and whatever your like, you know, development like sort of priorities and like preferences are, versus buying something externally or doing or using open source. But then there'll be like some categories that you will have developed internally because you didn't have a choice. And then fast forward a couple of years and now you're a more mature business, you have multiple geographies, you have multiple customer like archetypes and product lines, and like that internal tool is like not a priority anymore. And freeing up some developer time away from maintaining this like non-core asset, which can be replaced with a SaaS that is
Mm.
cheaper and better, and has like their own startup maintaining, is just better value for money basically. um, and like to me, for the best example I have to date is like this like annotation stack for vision. um, because I think like everybody in the space, like I've been monitoring all these companies for long, and I've always kind of felt like a lot of the annotation providers are like software on top of human labor, and it's sort of hard to see how you can get like software margins with that approach. But I think as like the technology matures and you get much more of this like auto annotation and like few shot learning style approaches, but more importantly, like the fact that if you look at companies that were started in like 2014, 15 or something, in the early innings of deep learning, like these businesses didn't have a choice. Like they built their own stack. And if those companies are still around, they're probably successful, and they're probably at like 10 million ARR or maybe even more. And they've got other priorities. And so switching to a SaaS like makes sense. Um, and then companies that are started today, they have that optionality to buy a SaaS versus build their own, and that it doesn't make sense to build their own, so they'll buy a SaaS.
Mm.
Um, so I think that's what's also driving like more proliferation of like these labeling tools as an example, and that same kind of transition might also occur for monitoring in the future. It might occur for version control as well, but it just depends on like the classic like build versus buy, and does it make sense to build custom to my environment because it's still non-standard, or has the best practices been laid down and we've all like agreed as a community that this is the way we do things,
Mhm.
and then it makes sense to buy sort of the best in class like version of that best practice.